Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, in response to a police raid on one of Korea's major union umbrella groups, a second union umbrella decides to participate in an upcoming mass-scale strike. The state-run railway operator announces new hires as the rail strike enters its third week. South Korea's spy agency chief says the recent execution of the North Korean leader's uncle was a likely result of conflict among state agencies surrounding Jang Song-thaek's involvement in the regime's lucrative business projects. Plus, with concerns rising over a potential civil war in South Sudan, the UN Secretary-General requests the additional deployment of peacekeeping personnel in the region. Daybreak begins now.
You're watching Daybreak on Tuesday, December 24th. I'm Choi Yusan in Seoul. As the railway strike rumbles into its third week, labor unions are holding firm in the aftermath of a massive police raid on Sunday. The Federation of Korean Trade Unions, one of the country's two major union umbrella groups, said Monday that they plan to go on strike from this Saturday, December 28th, in support of the rail union. Hundreds of riot police raided another umbrella, the Korean Confederation of Trade Unions headquarters Sunday, and more than 130 railway union workers were taken into custody. In another development, state-run rail operator Korail announced that it will hire around 500 replacement workers who will be ready to work from January. The strike started after Korail decided to create a subsidiary for a new KTX service, a move union members say is the first step toward privatization. President Park Geunhye is planning on spreading a little holiday cheer over the Lunar New Year break next month by giving pardons for the first time since taking power. The presidential office said the pardons will be given to those who committed crimes because they were struggling to make ends meet, but will exclude those guilty of corruption or those higher up on the social ladder. It added the president's decision is aimed at easing the difficulties for ordinary people. President Park did not pardon anyone on National Liberation Day in August, following through on a campaign pledge to refrain from using her right to do so. South Korea's spy agency says the North Korean leader's uncle Jang Song-thaek was executed not because of an internal power struggle, but due to disputes over lucrative business projects. The agency also forecasts that North Korea is highly likely to carry out a provocation early next year. Our Han Da-eun has more.
The fall of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's uncle Jang Song-thaek may not have been due to a power struggle like many had speculated. Chief of Seoul's National Intelligence Service Nam Jae-jun, while briefing the National Assembly's Intelligence Committee, said Jang apparently overstepped his bounds by getting involved in big business projects and that this was the main reason he was executed. The NI's chief explained Jang interfered in Pyongyang's most lucrative projects, mostly coal-related ones, sparking conflicts with the state's other financial agencies. Kim Jong-un ordered him to settle the disputes, but when Jang defied that order, he was executed for going against Kim's supreme leadership. As for Jang's wife and Kim Jong-un's aunt, Kim Kyung-hee, the intelligence chief said, unlike many had thought, she has no health problems, but is rather staying out of the public eye for the moment. Nam also warned of a possible provocation by the North early next year, sometime between January and March, pointing out that North Korea's artillery units are being reinforced and more military exercises are being held. Nam said Pyongyang could forge ahead with provocations targeting the South in order to shift people's attention away from the instability domestically. Nam added the reclusive state is ready to conduct a fourth nuclear test at any time. Meanwhile, the NI's chief denied all reports that some of Jang's close aides are seeking asylum in China, saying there was no truth to any of them. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
Senior foreign and defense ministry officials of South Korea and China have exchanged views on the state of affairs surrounding the Korean peninsula after North Korea's dramatic execution of its leader's uncle. The high-level security talks in Beijing Monday were led by Park Geunhye, director of Northeast Asian Affairs at Seoul's foreign ministry, and his Chinese counterpart, Lu Jiahui. Seoul's foreign ministry says the two sides agreed to boost communication and cooperation, reaffirming that peace on the Korean peninsula was their shared goal. The two nations also agreed to work towards denuclearizing North Korea. Seoul officials say they pointed out factors that intensify tensions in Northeast Asia, including China's new air defense zone and increasing competition between Beijing and Washington. The economic gap between the two Koreas remains wide. New data from Statistics Korea shows South Korea's per capita gross national income was nearly 19 times higher than that of North Korea's last year. The per capita GNI for the South was estimated at around 25 million won, or roughly $24,000 US, while the figure for North Korea was around $1,200. South Korea's total trade volume was also over 150 times higher than the North's $6.8 billion. The only sector in which North Korea outperformed the South was in coal production. North Korea produced about 26 million tons of coal, 10 times more than the South.
If you want the latest news from Korea and around the world.
Return to the negotiations. President Park Geunhye planned, given the current circumstances.
On your way to work or at home.
Defense Ministry. The legislature will convene a.
Tune into Daybreak on Arirang TV.
Prime Minister Shinzo Abe said Tuesday. As part of efforts to stamp out irregular business practices here in Korea, the government plans to prohibit so-called circular shareholding involving Korea's conglomerates. A bill proposed by the National Assembly Committee on Monday would forbid major shareholders of conglomerates from controlling subsidiaries despite holding a small stake. The bill falls in line with President Park's pledge to support the country's sustainable growth drive through fair competition and as bipartisan support. Some good news on the labor front. More than 400,000 new jobs are expected to be created in Korea next year. The Korea Employment Information Service predicted an economic growth rate of 3.8% for 2014 and a total employment rate of nearly 60%. That would be a rise of 0.3 percentage points from this year, but still far from the 70% target for 2017 set by the Park Geunhye administration. The news isn't all rosy, though. The report suggests that young people will continue to struggle in 2014 since the job market is likely to favor those with more experience. While the number of employed people aged 30 and above rose this year, the number of 20-somethings in work dropped by nearly 60,000. Korea laid out an ambitious roadmap to mold itself into Northeast Asia's financial hub back in 2003. Now, 10 years later, Seoul's financial industry still lags far behind its Asian neighbors. What's brought Korea to this point, and where is the nation's financial industry headed? Our Yurian has the details.
While Korea is home to manufacturing giants like Samsung, Hyundai, and LG, Korea's financial sector had lagged far behind, despite government efforts to make Seoul a Northeast Asian financial capital on par with Hong Kong and Singapore. The Seoul International Finance Center was built with an aim to attract multinational financial companies. But after a year since its opening, Seoul's tallest and glossiest buildings now stand as a stark symbol of the country's failure to become a financial capital. The center, located in the heart of a bustling financial district in Yeouido, was a $1.4 billion project. But today, only one of the three buildings is fully occupied. The second building is at about half capacity, and the third completely empty.
Simply put, Korea is not an attractive place to invest. The market is small and the competition among domestic financial companies is already so fierce that there's not much profit to gain from Korea.
Given the low prospect for growth, foreign banks in Korea have little incentive to try and expand. In the past 10 years, the number of branches and offices of foreign financial companies has shrunk from 79 to 62, a 20% drop. This called for a change of direction. Instead of making Seoul a financial hub, taking domestic financial firms overseas to compete in the global market. This, according to a blueprint unveiled by the Financial Services Commission last month. Experts say it's a belated but welcome move.
Korean financial companies have no choice but to go abroad, given that the domestic market is saturated. It's important that these companies realize that they need to set out long-term goals.
The key, he added, is to break away from their tendency to seek short-term profits and to commit to improving their overseas operations over the next 10 to 20 years. Yuri-an, Arirang News.
Disposing discarded home appliances has always been a headache, but a newly developed recycling method is catching on, especially since it makes it easier to turn trash into cash. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Most of the discarded home appliances can be recycled, but the hard part is classifying them into the right category. But now, thanks to a new technology, recycling promises a better and more efficient outcome. This is an e-waste collector developed by local researchers that can sort out plastic into 3 different types and separate metals into aluminum, copper, and stainless steel.
The machine sorts out the waste by using near-infrared rays and analyzing the wavelength reflected on the plastic. As for the metals, it separates them by distinguishing their differences in color.
Valuable waste resources that have in the past been difficult to categorize are now expected to show a recycle rate of up to 95% from the current 85%. Experts believe it will kill 3 birds with 1 stone, saving the environment, making money, and creating new jobs in the industry. This method can also be applied to scrapped cars and other wastes from many different business facilities.
The most promising part is to be able to contribute to the economic development in the country by securing a more superior technology than other developed countries.
Experts estimate this new technology will bring about an economic effect worth some $114 million annually by reducing processing times and raising the value of waste materials. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon has asked the UN Security Council to increase the number of peacekeepers in South Sudan to better protect civilians from the worsening violence there. Reports say the 15-member council is expected to convene an emergency meeting shortly to discuss this issue and is likely to adopt a resolution approving about 5,000 more troops and police for the UN peacekeeping mission. There are currently about 7,000 peacekeeping troops in South Sudan, including Korea's Hanbit unit, consisting of some 280 engineers and medics. Violence is escalating between rebel forces led by former Vice President Riek Machar and the nascent South Sudan government. The UN says some 45,000 civilians are currently seeking protection at UN bases in South Sudan. Taking you now to Thailand, where weeks of anti-government protests continue to intensify. Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawatra had hoped that calling early elections for February would quell the unrest, but tensions spilled over again on Monday. Our Connie Kim has the latest.
Despite protesters' efforts to block candidates from registering for the upcoming February elections in Thailand, political parties began doing just that on Monday. Representatives for some of Thailand's political parties started arriving at Thai-Japanese Stadium at 3 a.m. local time. 9 parties were able to register there, while 25 others signed up at a nearby police station. While potential candidates were gearing up for an election in February, protesters remained steadfast in their opposition. On Sunday, tens of thousands of people took to the streets of Bangkok, warning the government not to proceed with preparations. CNN reports that as many as 150,000 people showed up for Sunday's protests throughout Bangkok, including outside of Prime Minister Yingluck Shinawat's house. Protest leader Suthep Thaek-suban warned the government and election commission that reforms must first take place prior to the elections. The protest leaders said they will continue to rally if Prime Minister Yingluck remains in power. They argue that the Yingluck government is corrupt and is controlled by Yingluck's brother Thaksin Shinawat, the nation's former leader who was overthrown in a military coup in 2006. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Let's now turn to Reuters to see what other stories are making headlines around the world.
With rockets flying across the sky, Syria's civil war rages on. New amateur video appears to show rebels launching a strike on Aleppo's airport. The rebels are identified in the video by this man, who says they are part of the Islamic Front's Al-Tawhid Brigade. Reuters cannot independently verify the video, which was posted on a social media website. Other video appears to show the aftermath of an airstrike that hit a school. Men can be seen digging through the rubble looking for children buried in the blast. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says at least 42 people, including many children, were killed. The war has killed more than 100,000 people and displaced millions.
Winter brings snow and high winds to North America. Icy rain across much of Canada turned roads and pavements into skating rinks. Here in the Canadian city of Toronto, ice storms knocked out power to thousands of homes and businesses, and an estimated 350,000 customers are without electricity in eastern Canada. Media reports say power could be out until December the 25th, leaving Canadians out in the cold. In the U.S., heavy rainfall, ice storms and tornadoes have caused flight delays and unsafe road conditions, wreaking havoc on Christmas travel plans. Tornado watches were issued for Tennessee, Arkansas and here in Louisiana, where powerful winds swept through the southern states, scattering debris in their wake. In Monroe, the facade of this bookstore was ripped away.
We heard something falling, and then we saw the letters falling, and then we saw the sides of the wall falling, and then I saw the transformer over there blew up and flashed everywhere. The glass started shattering.
In the U.S. alone, more than 700 flights have been cancelled and more than 11,000 delayed.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off in baseball. While it's Christmas Eve here in Korea, Christmas came early for Dae Ho, who signed a major deal with the Softbank Hawks of the MPB. Now, big boy Dae Ho had 2 major seasons with the Oryx Buffaloes, agreed to a 2+1 contract, which will pay him up to 1.9 billion yen, or roughly $18.2 million, including all the options. The Softbank Hawks struggled offensively last season and has been aggressively going after the 31-year-old slugger, as Dae Ho is set to hit cleanup for the Hawks. Now, in the 2 seasons in Japan, Dae Ho hit 48 home runs and drove in 82 RBIs. Now, staying in baseball, Yoon Sung-min, who's been in the U.S. all this time in hopes to sign with a major league team, came back to Korea on Sunday night, and no one knew until the following day. And as soon as everyone found out Yoon Sung-min returned to Korea, the Kia Tigers were on a mad rush to sign the pitcher once again. But the 27-year-old righty stated that he's only here to rest for the holidays and will not talk to any KBO teams regarding a contract. Instead, he added that he plans to return to the States in January, hoping to sign with a major league team before the 2014 season begins. Now, certainly a lot of baseball news this morning as the KBO announced their 2014 schedule on Monday. And believe it or not, we're about 3 months away from the start of the new season. With the schedules being released, the 9 KBO teams will play each other 16 times throughout the season for a total of 128 games. This comes out to 576 games throughout the league in 2014, with the opening day taking place on March 29th. The schedule was made so that each team travels as little as possible in between series, with the All-Star game taking place on July 18th. And shifting gears and finishing things off in the K-League Classic, the soon-to-be Sonam FC hopes to start fresh after the city decided to take over the team, has a new head coach, and he's quite experienced, to say the least. The club decided to go with an experienced head coach and 75-year-old Park Geunhye, who last coached Dae Ho FC back in 2006. And although head coach Park hasn't coached in the past 7 years, he has 41 years of experience as a coach, as his unique style of football of total offense and total defense could change the team for the better. The 3-year deal will have him in the league until he's 78, in a league filled with young head coaches like Hwang Sun-ong and Choi Young-soo. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good Tuesday morning to you. I'm Lee Ji-hyun with your latest weather forecast. Well, yesterday wasn't that cold, but it was quite chilly with strong gusty winds. And for today, the whole nation will enjoy an unseasonably mild Christmas Eve, with temperatures will be heading into near 5 degrees Celsius in the Seoul metro area and 10 down south, while morning lows will stay in the negative side. So be sure to bundle up tight for your morning commute before head out. Well, we'll continue to be under the influence of high pressure system from China, so we are expecting plenty of sunshine across the nation throughout the day, but some parts of East Coast might see a few flurries mixed with rain during the day. So if you plan to travel in those regions, be on the lookout for that and drive with extra caution. Now tomorrow, Christmas Day will be even milder than today, so white Christmas is highly unlikely, but enjoy the mild and sunny Christmas. The warming trend will continue till tomorrow, but things will get noticeably cooler after the rain on Thursday. So again, enjoy the mild weather condition while it's here. With that in mind, here are the readings for today. Morning lows are starting out in the minus side in most regions. Seoul is starting out at -4, but afternoon highs will peak to 5, which is 2 degrees higher than yesterday, while Daegu and Gwangju wakes up to daily lows at -2 and -3 respectively, and will peak to 7 in the afternoon, and Busan should climb into 10 under lots of sunshine. Now let's see how other regions are looking. It looks like Jeju should see a high of 10 in the afternoon. Daejeon and Dokdo will reach at 6 and 3, but another freezing morning is in store for Mount Gyeongbang at -16. Now that's all for Korea, and here's the global forecast for viewers around the world. That's all for me at this hour. Enjoy your morning commute and hope you have a wonderful Christmas Eve. And don't forget to join me again for another Updates afternoon.
And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Very happy.
And that does it for this Christmas Eve edition of Daybreak. Stay with us for more on the day's headlines.